We are now less than 3 weeks away from opening day, and the Atlanta Braves continue their spring training. And we cover all the headlines and stories as we count down the days until the 2024 season gets started. Welcome to another edition of BPTV. Grant McCauley and Chris Willis with you as always. Before we get started here today, I have to remind you, go ahead, give us a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you turn on notifications so you get an alert every time we drop a new episode of the show. Chris, we already did a preview series that I thought was pretty in-depth, and we spent a lot of time on the Atlanta outfield. But we're going to spend even more time on that outfield today because it's a group that could be set for a very big season, and that might be the understatement of the show, all inside the first minute. Individually, collectively, I think a lot's going to be expected of this group, but we had to hold our breath this past week, momentarily at least, because one rather important piece of this puzzle came up maybe a little bit lame. At least it felt like it for just a moment.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, anytime you hear the word knee associated with Ronald Acuña Jr., it raises your eyebrow and you hold your breath just a little bit if you're a Braves fan. But luckily, it seems like that this situation is going to work out.
It does. In a spring training camp that does not have much in the way of intrigue for positional battles or any real major storylines, the Braves are hoping to simply have everybody healthy and ready for the long haul of the season and ready to get themselves back into October for a little bit of redemption that we've also talked about a time or three here on the show. The plan, though, hit a bit of a speed bump when Ronald Acuña Jr. reported some discomfort in his previously surgically repaired right knee and jetted off to L.A. to have it checked out. The good news is it was confirmed that it's simply some irritation around the meniscus. That was an MRI the Braves had done and was confirmed on that second opinion. Atlanta expects Acuña to be ready for opening day, but there was understandable concern, Chris, because of who he is and the history with that knee that you just mentioned.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he's the guy that's unreplaceable, for any team, especially with the Braves. So, he's such an important piece of the puzzle. You're going to hold your breath a little bit. I mean, it didn't sound like it was completely serious, but, when you start hearing MRI and everything like that, I know they want to be thorough, but still, the possibility was there. You were kind of holding your breath a little bit, especially after he made the trip to California. So, good. It seems like it's good news. I know he hit on the field yesterday. I know Mark Bowman tweeted that out. Sounds like he's moving around pretty good, and hopefully we're going to see him in the lineup here again soon.
Yeah, and we got to see a couple of videos of Ronald seemingly, at least when I saw him, the demeanor, everything that he was able to do. And by the way, doing the interview in English as well with Franco Garcia just standing by. I think that it should let people know that Ronald's in very good spirits, and I think feeling good most importantly. And if this were the regular season, I just have this feeling like this might have been a day or two off. Maybe they go the same route, get the knee checked out, but once it was cleared, he probably would be back in the lineup sooner than later, but you're not going to play any games whatsoever or take any chances, I should say, with the reigning National League MVP, who, as you mentioned, is an irreplaceable part of this lineup. And obviously the Braves don't want to even think about being without Acuña for any amount of time, if we're being honest. This injury scare will probably serve as a bit of a reminder for Acuña to maybe take it easy in these games, avoid any more rundowns, and let the Braves to maybe handle him a little bit differently as their superstar. They just want to take care of him leading up to the regular season, which is less than 3 weeks away now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the most important part now at this juncture, especially, is just getting through the spring healthy. I felt much better about the situation when I saw that video of AJ Minter pranking him with the snake, which I thought was hilarious because he looked like he was moving pretty good right then, knee soreness or not. So, I think at the end of the day, it was it's a collective sigh, but it is a reminder that we need to get through 3 more weeks with just everybody intact.
Yeah, and that 3 weeks does give the Braves a little bit of time to not have to rush Acuña back into the lineup or get him a certain number of at-bats. I think he can continue his work on the side. He can get some at-bats in B games. That's one thing that spring training is great for. If they want to get Ronald Acuña Jr. 8, 9, 10 at-bats in one day, he can go face live pitching on those backfields. So that's something else the Braves can do, or Acuña can do, to keep himself timed up and ready to get back in game action. And we'll see when exactly that's going to be. Now, one other thing we saw, Chris, that I thought was interesting in all of this, maybe a byproduct, if you will, is Michael Harris II working out of that leadoff spot this spring. I know he's not going to be moving there on a regular basis because of the gentleman that we just got done discussing, but Harris, I feel like he's got to be moving on up that order this season. He just celebrated his 23rd birthday, and I think he is primed for a huge season in year 3 as he patrols center field for Atlanta. What are you expecting from Harris, and what are you seeing this spring that I don't know if you're as excited as I am about the possibilities, but Michael Harris II just feels like the guy in spring training this year for the Braves who could be the breakout player in 2024.
No doubt about it. I think he's the guy that could jump to that next level, significantly. I mean, you've seen some of the it's not just that he's hitting home runs. I mean, he's hit some tape measure shots already in the spring. He was healthy. He's moving around. It's his third season. You know, I think he's matured at this point. And I mean, he had a monster season last year if for the back injury. I mean, when you look at his numbers, I think he was hitting 163 in early June.
Yep.
You look at his numbers from that point to the end of the season. I mean, he already broke out in a big way. So, you know, hopefully he can just stay healthy and put a full season together. And I'm excited to see where those numbers end up.
Yeah, now you and I are going to play a little bit more over-under with the Braves outfield later on in this show, but you mentioned it. I mean, on June 6th, you're batting so far below 200, have had to deal with injuries, can't seem to get on track. A lot of young players, that might have been a harbinger of just a bad year, a lost year. But if my memory serves, Michael Harris down the stretch there from June the 6th on batted .335 with a 900-plus OPS. He was nearly a 2020 player. He's a Gold Glove quality outfielder. I mean, he just does it all. He checks all those boxes. And I challenge anybody between the two of us or anyone listening out there to find me another of the 30 teams in which this guy is batting ninth in the lineup. I just don't think that's going to be in his future for very much longer. Let's stick in the outfield and talk about another guy the Braves are expecting to complete this trio. Jared Kelenic came over from Seattle, and he's found the hits a little bit hard to come by this spring. It was pointed out to me on social media that maybe we should be alarmed. I'm kind of the opinion that maybe we shouldn't be, because I think the quality of the plate appearances and that swing and his comfort level heading to opening day are the boxes that I want to see Jared Kelenic checking, in addition to really fitting in that clubhouse, which it seems like by all accounts he really has. To me, I just want him to be feeling like he's in a good place when the games actually count. Spring training stats are great, but historically they're a poor indicator of future performance, and I don't see anything to get worked up over a couple of dozen at bats in the first weeks of spring. Do you, Chris?
No, I don't either. I think it's way too early to be worrying about that, and I'm not going to be worrying about it at the end of spring training either. I want to see what he looks like when the regular season gets here. I mean, I understand it. People are going to look at those numbers and stuff. I think the biggest thing that I've been watching is his defense. He's made some nice plays in the outfield out there. And, you know, the Braves will swallow the offense for a little while and give him a lot of rope as long as he's playing adequate defense in left field. And it seems like he's going to, you know, he's done that well and has even seen some time in center. You know, I think at some point he's going to relax. And the thing about spring numbers, as you pointed out, you know, he's 1 3 or 4 hit game away, 3 or 4 hit day away, a couple of days away from having good numbers and everybody forgetting about whatever he's on for this start.
I don't know if I'll ever forget Sean Murphy going, like 0 for 10 in his first few games in a Braves uniform, and people wondering if the Braves lost the trade, and then come to find out Sean Murphy's actually pretty good, had a nice offensive season. I know there were some highs and lows. They're going to be for a lot of different players. Sean Murphy, Jared Kelenic, Matt Olson's first season with the Braves. Austin Riley's gone through it. Nobody's immune to this stuff. It just happens. But I think for Kelenic, again, and I know we've talked about this a lot, so we don't need to spend much more time on it, but the expectation level in Seattle, I think, was way up here. Maybe I need to go off the screen. With the Braves, I think it's a manageable level because he's fitting into a very well-constructed club, a great offense, and that's going to allow him, I think, to get comfortable and to have that opportunity, Chris, that you just said, to go out there and just play his game and find out, you know, what changes, what adjustments he can make as he assimilates to a brand new club, a brand new opportunity. Now, one question the Braves are going to have to answer this spring is who's going to be their primary reserve outfielder. They've got a handful of guys in the running for this job. Forrest Wall has got that speed factor. He is opening some eyes offensively with the numbers this spring, which, as we said, you can take him or leave him. You like good ones, but Jordan Luplow has also flashed some power. I think he's a legitimate option. Eli White is in this mix. A righty hitter seems to make the most sense because of the roster construction that we've talked about with Kelenic being left-handed as well. But where do you see Atlanta going, or could there be one more move to address how exactly the Braves fill this need before they're ready to open the season?
I mean, there's a couple of things that you got to look at. I really do think that there may be another move made before now and the end of the season, but it also comes back to how many reserve infielders they elect to take to carry, because, you know, Forrest Wall so far has been, I mean, in a lot of ways, the story of camp. I mean, he's looked much improved at the plate. He's shown some power. We know the speed's there, ability to play all three outfield positions at a reasonably well. So, To me, if you're basing it on performance, he's probably the guy right now. But at the same time, he's a left-handed bat, which doesn't mesh real well with Jerry Kelenic and Michael Harris. Alex Anthopoulos kind of hinted that didn't matter early in the spring.
Right.
So we'll just have to see. I really like Jordan Luplow's shown some power. Eli White I was a fan of Eli White's last spring as well. I see a bunch of different combinations that could come out of this, but at the same time, again, I still feel like there's probably at least one more move made in this left to be made, but before opening day.
Yeah, and you might as well go shopping because a lot of clubs are going to have to make some difficult decisions, and among them could be cutting loose a useful player, which we've seen happen in the past. And it's worth bringing up because, again, roster construction is a big deal, but with the universal DH now in place, you have far less moves that puts that bench into action. So a lot of this, and Alex Anthopoulos touched on it as well, is we just need to find guys who are comfortable with the fact that, hey, the at-bats, the playing time, we can't promise any. It could be hard to come by, but you do want to have quality players just in case you do need them for the pulled hamstrings and things that might come up over the course of a season. The back injury that kept Michael Harris off the field early last year. It was important to have a Sam Hilliard around. And then once Michael Harris came back, it was Michael Harris's show to go again. And Sam Hilliard found at-bats very hard to come by. That's just one of those examples. So we'll see who is able to take this job and run with it and how long they're able to run with it. No pun intended for Forrest Wall because he might run pretty far, pretty fast. It's just not going to be a land of opportunity, if you catch my drift, if you're a reserve player for the Atlanta Braves. I mean, David Fletcher's out there, I think, batting .500 for the spring and just trying to fight for a spot on the Braves bench, and he might well have one. We'll talk about that a little bit later on or on another edition of BPTV because we got to play a little bit of over-under with the Braves outfield. And I picked a few stats. Again, these are just mine. These are not for betting purposes. And we'll see if we agree or disagree on what we could see this season from the starting trio of Ronald Acuña Jr., Michael Harris II, and Jared Kelenic. Might as well lead off with Acuña, and we might as well get this one out of the way. Chris, Ronald Acuña Jr. over under 49.5 home runs. Which way you leaning?
I'm going to go under. I think he's going to win his second straight MVP, but at the same time, I can't predict the guy to hit 50 home runs as far as that goes. So
yeah,
I'll go under here. But yeah, I mean, he's still going to have a monster season.
I had to pick a big number, and I'm also going to have to go under on this one. But there's just been so much talk for so many years about a 50-50 season. And Ronald said, I don't want to put any limits on it. He also didn't say, I'm claiming that and I'm going to do that. But for what he did last year, he has taught me to maybe believe that anything is possible with this guy. So if he does hit 50 home runs, I won't be surprised. And I may just have to start a whole new tracker and keep up with that over the course of the season as well. Let's stick with Acuña over under 59.5 stolen bases. Remember, over 70 last year, as he said, a Braves modern record.
I'm going to go under. I think he's going to be really close to that mark again. But at the same time, I'm also kind of interested to see how teams kind of adjust now that we'll be in the second year of the rule changes as far as stealing bases. I think Acuña is going to run at will. But again, we were talking a little bit about that knee, a little bit about soreness, getting a little bit old. Not old by any means, but at this point, you start to. I think he can dial it back just a little bit. But I will say this too, and this piggybacks off the other one. If there's a player in the majors that's going to go 50-50, I believe it's number 13 for Atlanta.
Yeah, we'll find out if he's able to reach that very lofty bar. I'm going to go over the 59.5 because that would still represent, if he steals, say, 60 bases, a drop of nearly 15 steals year over year. But I still think it's an important part of his game. I still think it's a legitimate threat and a distraction to opposing pitchers as they're already trying to deal with one of the toughest offenses you may ever see. I think Ronald Acuña Jr. is going to have some motivation to run. I know that there was a little bit of a scare here in spring training with the meniscus, and hopefully if he's all ready to go and doesn't feel like there's any need to limit himself, maybe he just kind of gets himself a nice walking lead in April and finds those stolen bases as the year goes along. How about Michael Harris II, over under 29.5 home runs in 2024?
I'm going to go under, but I think he's going to settle in right around 25. The way he's hitting them in spring, I was very tempted to predict a 30 homer season. But I think he's going to settle in around a 25 homers guy.
Okay, I'm going to go under, but I also will stipulate, and I'm going to get to another one of these in a minute. This could be a push because if you look at what he did last year with basically April and May and even a week or two into June that just wasn't going his way, and he was still flirting with 20, he could probably find his way into 10 more home runs, but particularly with the way that he has, worked out in the offseason and really seemed to find improvement year over year. I wouldn't be surprised by it. I will also take the under, and I'm going to go over under his stolen bases at 29.5 as well. Chris, I'm going to take the over on this one. So I think it's a 30-plus stolen base year for Michael Harris. How about you?
I agree with that. I'm going over on Michael Harris. I think he steals at least 30 bags this season. I think this is going to be the big jump. Of course, it also depends on where he hits in the lineup, which you and I have talked about. But I think we're going to see him climb out of that 9 spot, and I think we're going to see him start to be a lot more aggressive, when it comes to stealing bags.
Yeah, and I think he can kind of be a rally starter no matter where he is in the lineup. I know he may have a lot of help if he's at the top of the order and Ronald Acuña Jr. is there and Austin Riley and Matt Olson are following. Obviously, that kind of speaks for itself, but I think Michael can still wreak some havoc out on the base paths with his wheels. Jared Kelenic over under 19.5 home runs.
I'm going to go over. I think if he plays as much as I think he's going to play and as much as the Braves have said, I think he's going to be an easy 20-plus homer guy.
Okay, I'm going to take the over as well. I don't know how far over it's going to be, but it kind of brings me to the last one of our over-unders for Jared Kelenic. It's over under 49.5 extra base hits. I'll go ahead and let you know. I'm going to take the over. I think at the very least it should be a push.
Yeah, I would probably take the push if I could get away with it, but I'm going to go over. I think he may get off to a slow start, but at some point, I think it's going to click for Jared Kelenic, and I think a lot of people are going to be surprised, with the result. I think at this point, I know they've talked a good game about, just letting him relax and stuff, but I think Jared Kelenic's probably pressing just a little bit at the plate now. So I think, I think once the regular season gets here, we'll start to see him slot in and find some comfort.
Yeah, I really haven't noticed much about Jared Kelenic that's given me any reason for concern. I still think the quality of the bat, it's been some hard hit contact, some loud outs, if you will, and I think he's going to be fine. And I would hope that nobody's pressing in spring training when you know that you're not out there, in a mix of 4 or 5 other players trying to be the 26th man on the roster. Jared Kelenic is so far and away not that. Some final news and notes from Friday. The Braves made another round of roster cuts. Among these, they reassigned veteran reliever Ken Giles to minor league camp. Giles on the comeback trail after several injury-plagued years. I think he made a pretty good impression in his handful of outings, but getting more innings as he looks to get back to the big leagues to stay is probably the thinking here for Atlanta and an important step on Giles' journey.
Yeah, no doubt. I had him in our latest roster projection. I had him on with a spot in the bullpen. So obviously going to have to go back to the drawing board there. But I've been impressed with Giles. He's looked well. He's not he doesn't have the 100-mile-per-hour fastball that he had, but his fastball is still good enough, it appears. And getting him some innings and everything will be an added bonus as far as in minor league camp. So, and if there's an injury, we could always see him again at some point. So I think he's had a good showing in camp. But I was a little surprised today when I saw him reassigned.
Yeah, I think that really it's more of a, I don't know if long term is the word, but a longer style of play than just simply, okay, well, we're going to just bring you back and throw you right into the fire immediately after as much time as he has missed the past few years. I think the Braves do want to take all care that they can and give him that opportunity to ramp himself up and feel comfortable so that he goes out there and feels like himself when he gets back to the big league level. That's going to bring us to the end of this episode of BPTV. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. There's so much ahead for the Braves and for us this season. We're going to bring you new episodes of the show each and every week on the Battery Power YouTube channel. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell that turns on the notifications. That way you get an alert every time we drop a new episode. That's going to do it for us today, but we will catch you next time. For Chris Willis, I'm Grant McCauley. And until then, so long, Braves country.